All right, all right. It is time for another episode of Two Pastors and a Guest. I'm your host, Brian Callies with Callies Ministries. And so excited. I got awesome co-host here, my brother, my partner, my pal, Pastor Charles Matthews. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm blessed, man, by the grace of God. Just always say one day at a time, sweet Jesus. I'm glad I'm still in the land of the dying, working my way to the land of the living.
Listen to him go.
Yes,
Love it. Love it. Guys, you guys are going to love our show tonight. So we have got a couple amazing guys with us. These are the guys that if you were ever interested in gardening or trying to figure out how to do all this gardening stuff, I know everybody is home a lot. So many people are home right now because of the COVID thing and trying to do that social distancing. And it seems like everybody's out there trying to do something either in the yard or in the gardening world. We've got two masters here. These guys, I call them masters. They are with the UT-TSU Extension Office. They are with the Master Gardening Program. So we've got Dr. Chris Cooper and Booker T. Leigh. How are you gentlemen doing?
We doing fine, doing great.
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
We're just honored and excited to have you and open up some really good questions. So audience, all our listeners and all our viewers, if you were ever interested in asking questions to some guys who really, really know something, feel free. Make sure you like the page, go down here and add a comment. We're going to try to monitor the comments in real time. So as you guys have any questions for our wonderful guests, make sure you hit them. We'd love to do it. So let's see here. we got some questions. My wife and I have been playing around with a couple gardens. I'll give you a heads up on this. Well, now before we get started, Dr. Cooper, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, without a doubt. So I'm Chris Cooper. Of course, I'm with UT-TSU Extension here in Shelby County. Born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. BS degree from Southern University, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in soil science. And PhD in plant physiology from Alabama A&M in Huntsville, Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama. Wow, I went to school in
Yes,
Huntsville, Alabama. That's great.
What school was that?
UAH, University of Alabama, Huntsville.
Very familiar.
Very, very cool.
Very familiar with that.
Nice place, man. When I was there, it was gorgeous. So.
Yeah, back in
the
beautiful
city, no doubt.
How about you, Booker T. Leigh? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Booker T. Leigh. I work for the University of Tennessee in TSU Agriculture Extension Service. I'm born and raised in Coffeyville, Mississippi, and I went to school at Alcorn State University. Got my BS. I got my master from the University of Memphis, and I taught school at Melrose for 11 years. Been with the University of Tennessee for 28 years, on my 29th year now.
Wow. Awesome. Wow, you guys just can't get enough of this, huh?
I got family in Coffeyville, Mississippi.
Coffeyville, okay then.
I got family down there. You don't know Mr. Robert White, do you?
Yeah.
That's my uncle.
Okay then, yeah. Okay,
that's my uncle.
Coffeyville.
Yep.
Okay, congratulations then.
Oh yeah. Partner of mine said in there, we call him Buck.
There we go. I was just trying to look and see, so make sure we can see all our comments there. There we go. There we go. So let me give you a heads up of where I stand from. So my wife and I decided to put some gardens in the front yard of our house because our backyard's just got too many big old oak trees. So we can't grow a lot of vegetables in the shade, apparently. So we built a couple of raised beds in the front, and they had to look nice enough. I had to make them look pretty enough so my wife would let me put them in the front yard. There's not a lot of people garden out of the front yard. So we got a couple of raised beds, and we've been so fortunate. We tried you guys know what the 1 foot square gardening logic is? Have you guys heard of that? And you don't have to worry about muting yourself. There's only 4 of us in the room, so you can keep it up. So we started in that
Okay.
trek
Okay.
of the 1 foot square. And for the audience who doesn't know, that's a concept where you divide your garden up into 1 foot squares, basically. And so that whenever you harvest, let's say a section, it opens up that's like a small garden in itself. So whenever you take a crop away, rather than it affecting the whole garden, you've now got one spot, a square, that you can plant more stuff. You immediately plant more stuff. So you just keep something going all the time. It's a clever idea. I like the logic of it. And I don't know that it works the way that they intended. The concept was you can put different stuff in each square. My wife and I got into tomatoes, and now we've got what I call tomato trees, not tomato plants, but tomato trees. These silly things grow all the way up to the top. We got a trellis on the top. So it grows 5 feet up, 5.5 feet to the trellis. And then we have to hang them because it's going to grow all the way back down to the ground almost. We just got
Wow.
the world's biggest tomato plants you've ever seen. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm going to give it up to you guys. If you don't mind, can I just start asking some questions, or do you guys have a topic in particular you'd like to kind of mention?
Yeah, just ask us a question. Just whatever you have, just a question. We'd be glad to answer a question here. But on your tomato plant, one of the things about tomato plant, though, they do real good in raised bed, but sometimes we over fertilize though with a nitrogen fertilizer. Sometimes and we get them real tall, pretty plant and no tomatoes on there. So you might be kind of careful when you just fertilizing that plant with a nitrogen fertilizer.
Well, I'm so glad you asked that. So our trees get huge. And again, I call them trees. Our tomatoes and the first couple of years, man, we had so many tomatoes, we were giving them to neighbors. But as it keeps going, we've been putting more, each year we put a little bit more compost in there, and we put just different stuff. So we might, I think this year we put cotton burr and worm casings, and put 3 bags of each into each bed, and mixed it all up with the dirt that was still there. But it seems like each year our trees get bigger, but we don't have as much fruit as you would expect with ridiculously ginormous trees. So is that kind of what you're getting at? That maybe I'm making a mistake?
That could be.
Okay.
That could be the problem. That could be the problem over a period of time. Which organic material, you add nitrogen to the soil. That could be some of the things that you're doing. Giving it too much nitrogen fertilizer is doing a lot of growth, and it don't have time to set fruit.
Okay. So what do I do to fix the problem?
What do you think, Dr. Chris? You think that?
No, I think that's right. And to fix the problem, I would just back off the nitrogen fertilizer for the most part.
So no manure?
Nitrogen fertilizer is just giving you vegetative growth. I mean, you need more than just vegetative growth if you want to produce tomatoes. So I would back off. If you're using, a nitrogen fertilizer, I would back off of that.
We used a couple times. The only thing other than the 2 composts that we put in is she got some vegetable tone. You know what vegetable tone is? It's like
I'm familiar with that.
But some bag of stuff, and she was mixing that in. So back off on that, you think?
Yeah, I would hope on that. Yeah.
And then somebody told us last year, would be better is these trees start growing when they got big enough, like maybe up to the top, and they get about 5 foot tall, just cut them off, chop them off so that they'll kind of bush out more with fruit rather than keep growing up. All right. That theory didn't work with a darn to us, because it just it almost stopped.
And maybe next year you might want to rotate the tomato somewhere else in another one, in another part of your bed, another bed. Put something in that bed that like a lot of nitrogen fertilizer. Something that you might want to rotate them to another location.
Kind of like what? What would you recommend?
Something like nitrogen, a lot of nitrogen fertilizer in there.
Like corn
and something like that. Yeah.
Really?
But corn or some leafy veg that you might want to put in there.
What about potatoes?
Potato, they like more of a phosphorus and potassium kind of fertilizer in there. They're not really a whole lot of nitrogen either in there. Anything that have a fruit on there. They don't like a whole lot of nitrogen fertilizer.
Gotcha.
So you guys like the
Right.
concept of raised beds like that? I thought that was my first raised bed, but I kind of liked it.
A lot of folks going to that now. A lot of folks doing raised beds, especially got a small place, a small garden in here.
Right.
It sure
Raised beds are fine. I actually have a couple of raised beds, so they're actually real good. You know, it gets you out of the ground. Of course, you know, it heats up a little faster. You know, summertime, you have to keep it watered for sure. But you can do the crop rotation. It's easy to harvest. It's easy to pick out weeds. So there's definitely benefits, and you don't have to bend down as far. So think.
You can do something pretty simple on raised beds too, right? Like we could just, I've seen people use cinder blocks. I've seen people use 2x whatever's nailed together. You can keep it pretty simple, right? So it's economical.
Sure can.
Yeah.
And then when you first start, let's picture some of our audience members who are, they're new into this whole gardening thing, kind of like I was, probably still am. And what do you start with? So you ended up with, okay, so I'm going to put something around. Let's say I'm going to take 2x12s. I'm going to nail some of those together. Right now I got me a little raised area, but I got to fill it up full of dirt. What do I start with? Where do you buy? What do you buy? Like potting soil?
You have good potting soil. Good potting soil. Pro mix. Yeah, a lot of times I like to mix some regular soil in with my other soil too. You know, some really good dirt in with my potting mix. It covers it for to help hold a little moisture more and hold a little fertilizer better in there sometimes. And stuff in there. And first thing you want to do, you might want to try to find some way to, if you know where you don't put it at, you might find some way to maybe put plaster down there and put some holes in to try to get some of the weed side for coming through there. In your raised bed, you don't want a whole lot of weeds start jumping in through there. You might try to in some kind of way.
So before you put your dirt in to begin with, you're going to lay down some plastic.
You can't do that when you make it maybe some kind of thing for water can drain through there, but keep the weeds from coming through there too. And keep the weeds coming up through there. So
I saw something like that. I saw something at the hardware store called landscape fabric. Is that a good idea?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, be a good
landscape
idea.
fabric, plastics, you know, would be good. Definitely to keep that Bermuda weed from germinating up through there.
Right.
But when we set up our raised beds, we did, of course, we killed off the grasses, and then we put down plastic and landscape fabric and clay soil down at the bottom of it. And then we mix some regular soil in there, and then on top of that, we put Pro Mix.
So you intentionally put down clay? A layer of clay?
We intentionally put down clay at the bottom. See,
I was thinking that would prevent the water from like it draining or something. Is that a concern?
It's not a concern because here's the deal. Most of the things that you're going to grow in your raised beds have shallow roots.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That was smart.
Right, so the clay soil at the bottom was just, pretty much just to keep the plastic down, just to hold it in place. And then the rest of it is mix. But again, your vegetables for the most part, really don't have deep tap root systems. So they're shallow rooted.
All right. See, I should have talked to y'all first. See what I did. Let me tell you a mistake I did. I dug down about 8 inches and filled it full of rock. And, so that it would make sure it drained. I was worried that wasn't going to drain well, but apparently that was just a total waste of time.
Well, what about go ahead, Brian.
No, go ahead, brother.
What about like I know they would say, because you were saying like about even the fertilizer thing, and we know stuff like worms and stuff, they're really good fertilizer. So you put that plastic down and it kind of draws the worms up. So is that a good thing?
Wait, no, you don't put you don't have some more sort of you don't put in there with that. You put the plant that really control the weeds down, but when you put your other soil in there over a period of time, it'll insects begin to come in there too. Or you get the bacteria, it'll help get the soil really organic.
Okay.
Coming in.
Now, another question. What about What about watermelons? Are they a good thing to raise in, to plant in raised beds, or is that not a great idea?
When they run it, they do a lot of running too. Now, they might put in a raised bed there. You might want to put them in a regular garden or something like that.
Right. Okay.
Because they do a lot of running.
Right. A lot of running. They're gonna take over everything around them.
Yeah.
Right. They're gonna need space. We actually tried that one year, and we decided not to do that again because those vines are gonna be in place. You need space, for watermelons to stretch out.
Right.
Stretch out. Yeah, I like that stretch out.
So what we did, I gotta tell you about our attempt at watermelon. So we got our raised beds about 2 feet off the ground, right? So we got plenty of room. So we, as the vines were coming out, we thought, all right, let's take the vine out of the bed so that the bed can be used for other stuff, right? And we're gonna let the vine kind of come out, and then you got your little melons as they start to grow. And we put rock down around our thing so it's easier for us to walk on it. Turns out, though, it didn't work with the darn, because it turns out they don't like to sit apparently on hot rocks. That's not a good plan.
Yeah.
So then we started stuffing stuff under them to try to keep them cool. And it's just like every time that sun popped out, man, it would just bake them. And there was pretty much no way that we could keep from getting baked. So we didn't have really good watermelon crop.
And one thing about that watermelon thing, Brian, too, because my dad, he was younger, we stayed on a place called Moon Lake, Mississippi, before I moved to Lewis, and so we had a pretty nice sized garden, and I remember, what my dad would do, back then, have a lot of people doing a lot of sand, but he'd take sand, because, one thing about watermelons, man, if they sit on that, they don't like that moisture, man. They're rotting real fast, He would take that sand and put sand down there and then sit them on, so that way that sand soaks up a lot of the moisture, and stuff. But man, I'm telling you, but it's tough growing. You got to know what you're doing when you grow some watermelons, brother. And he would always say, son, now when you get the watermelons planted, when that first one come out, take it off there, because that's called the sucker. And the sucker.
Yeah, we'd grow a lot of watermelon too when I come in. My granddad used to grow a lot of watermelon.
Yeah. And especially down in your way, because, Water Valley known for watermelons.
Yeah, Water Valley Coffee, they had that watermelon festival down there.
Yes.
Yeah, so they know watermelon down that way.
Right. Yes, sir. But now, because a lot of people, and a lot of people, they can't asking questions like this, especially about the raised gardens and stuff, and I'm glad y'all are on here, kind of get some tips, because I like I say, I'm a professional landscaper, but like I tell them, I didn't do a lot of gardening. I have landscaping, planting landscaping experience. I done that for years. Scrub bushes, all that stuff. Planting and removing all that kind of stuff. But I tell them it's a whole different story when it comes to gardening, and you got to make sure that you know the difference in your soil, because if you ain't got healthy soil, you got a problem. You wasting your time even trying to plant a garden. Even in the raised garden bed, I noticed that if you got a bad area for some reason in your yard, especially if it ain't no shade, if it ain't no sun spot, you got a problem, because nothing's gonna grow right. And then on top of that, and then if you got a place that's real dry and dry out fast, you got a problem, because it ain't getting enough water. So so what would you tell people in recommendation about how to look for or how to even or how to maybe create some good soil just in case, is there any kind of way that they can do that or tell that?
Oh yeah, if they get there, and I know we're thinking about it. Yeah, if you get that soil tested, right?
Right, that soil tested, right?
So you got to get that soil tested, because it all starts with the soil, right?
Right.
I usually tell people, why guess soil test? So before you go out and buy lime and fertilizer, how do you know if you need it?
Right.
Yeah, get that soil tested, because the soil test is all about pH. pH is all about availability. So you have to know what's available to the plant that you're trying to grow before you can grow that said plant. So that's the first thing I tell people: get soil tested. And once we get the soil tested, then we need to look at, what are your light conditions, right? To drainage, do you have drainage issues? we can cover all that first, but I always like to start with that soil test because
that's soil test, right, Doctor?
Right there in the soil for sure. Don't you think so, Booker?
That's the best thing to get that soil test and make sure you got most vegetables gonna need at least 6 hours of sunlight a day.
Gotcha.
You need to find a place where you don't get at least 6 hours of sunlight, And I said, if you're a beginner garden, try to start small, raised may be a good thing to start with when start. Right. And I wouldn't go buy a whole lot of tools unless I knew this is something I want to do. Because you might get started. I wouldn't just go out and just buy a whole lot of stuff. I try to work with my neighbor or somebody that already has some garden tools.
Gotcha.
Off together, start a community garden or something, and start small. But get that soil test, like Dr. Cooper said. Get that soil test to make sure you got the right soil pH.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I officially failed at that. I did not get my soil tested. I did the idea. What was your motto there? Don't guess.
Soil test.
Soil test.
Okay, so
why guess? Soil test.
Teach me, guys. Teach me something. So where do I go to get my soil tested, or how do I do that?
Well, we had a soil box at our office. You come out there and pick one up with the Agri Center, and you send it off to Nashville. And for our box, it costs $15 a box. Mm-hmm. You got a little sheet that you fill out and tell them what you're doing it for, whether it's vegetable garden or lawn, raised bed, whatever. And they'll send you back to you and tell you what you need to add to it. And if you don't know, they can call our office and we'd be glad to help them out. We'd be glad with them. Sometimes they have a lot of numbers on there and you might need to know what numbers stand for. But the soil test, like Dr. Cooper said, that soil test. For most vegetables, you need a soil pH between 6.0 and 6.5. Right. For 6.0 and between that, but that's for your soil pH.
Mm-hmm. And what about so it ain't, so you can't really determine that the soil is good just because you got a good patch of grass growing there.
No, you might need to add something to that. Yeah.
Right. See, I mean, because these questions is important because a lot of people don't know this, and I'm kind of asking. I kind of know, but I don't know, so that's why I'm asking, because people ask questions. Like I tell them, I know how to grow some grass for you, but the thing about that, just because a good patch of grass there, that don't necessarily mean you can grow a good garden there. Because feedings here. When it comes to the grass root and and a vegetable root. And stuff, so like I said, you can put plenty of fertilizer on grass, it's good to go. As long as you and it burn it up, but other than that, long as you dilute that fertilizer, man, you good to go. You can fertilize it, man, as much as you want and keep it, man. It'll grow and grow and healthy looking. But you got to be careful with that because, like I say, you can burn that up. But I wanted to ask that question because people been asking me. But I got good grass in my yard, in my backyard, and I'm gonna put a garden back there. So if I got good grass, then that means that's good soil. I said I can't definitely tell you that. Right. But that's not necessarily true.
You can't tell that, yeah.
Right.
You need to
tell it without the soil test.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the key to it, and what's important is that if you're gonna plant a garden, the number one thing and most important thing to do is get a soil test.
Get a soil test.
Soil test. That's number one.
Number one.
And then, like Booker said, make sure you have enough, sunlight, for what it is that you're trying to grow. And then I'll tell you something else I like to throw in there too. And Booker, can chime in on this as well. Have an idea of what you want to eat.
Right.
If you like tomatoes, plant, just a couple of tomatoes for you and your family. If you like peppers, watermelon, whatever the case may be. So what is it that you like to eat?
Yeah, right.
Plant, right? And you don't need a whole lot depending on the size of your family. Now, with your neighbors or, with your neighborhood in a community garden setting, then you can, plant, as much as you, like. But for me and my family, 2 tomato plants is just fine. 2 pepper plants are just fine. So you have to think about that when you start your garden. So soil test, light situation, manage issues, and then what is it that you want to plant? So those are the things I would think of.
Right, that's good, yeah.
And this is even in a raised garden. You want to get a soil test, just in a okay.
Yeah, you can do that. Sure you can.
Yeah. Got the soil that you bring in, you don't know what's in it. You don't know how.
That's right.
Yeah, you don't know what you're bringing into there.
That's right.
Yeah, soil test, yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you just don't want no contaminated soil.
Yeah.
That's going to defeat the purpose of what you're doing there. Now, what about this one? How about so the different vegetables? Do they take different do it take different care to care for them, or like for example, let's say watermelons. I know that like I say, I know watermelons. Like I say, I know they don't like moisture. I know I know and I know that but they do like plenty of water. But how much water should you give a watermelon?
Well, most vegetables need about an inch of water a week. You kind of need to do it all at one time.
Oh.
Early in the morning time is the best time to do that. It's good drip system. Now, each vegetable has its own problem.
Okay.
They have their own disease, they have their own insects. You don't have a problem. They know tomato plant gonna get some kind of insects on that. I'm gonna get some kind of insects on that. Only thing I know didn't have a whole lot of insects on there when I was growing up. I hated it. I like it. I ain't like to pick okra.
Oh yeah, that okra. That's crazy, bro.
Now, I grew a little bit of okra last year. Man, that stuff grows big and tall and strong, doesn't it?
Sure does. You get the harvest, you got to pick it every other day or every day.
Okra doesn't play around.
Man, I didn't like that okra to pick that okra, man.
Right.
But they almost disease free though.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have a whole lot of problem with that. But I know like corn now, you can it's hard to do corn somewhere. You need 4 rows of corn for to have good corn.
Yeah.
For pollination process.
Right. How about, like you were just saying about, just like even we know that, like you said, each vegetable in the plant, they can draw different insects,
Right.
Just like now the watering process with watermelons. What's the best way to water them? Because I know it's not a sprinkler, because I kind of remember, that can kind of, put damage spots and stuff on like the leaves and stuff, stuff like that. So what's the best way to water your watermelons? I know you said do it. You might want to do it
A drip system.
Once a day or whatever.
Like if you water the soil, but it's hard to do watermelon because the vines and everything running.
Right.
But as long as you just water early in the morning time, have them get enough time to dry off before nightfall.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Makes sense.
So when you water, you got to always water in the morning, and then you try not to.
Water in the morning time if they have time.
You won't hurt anything to water in every day, would you? Or is it bad?
You can't do that. You can't do that. Yeah, you don't want to do that every day. You want the soil to kind of like dry out, so you don't want to just stay real moist. You don't want to stay kind of not that real wet, kind of moist like.
Right.
Now you got a lot of sandy soil. You got a whole lot of sandy soil. You just a little more water.
Right.
It just run through there. Like Dr. Chris said, they had a little clay and they things hit a whole little moisture in there sometimes.
Right. And you totally right, Booker. The thing about watering in the morning time too is, you don't want that foliage to be wet, throughout the day, because if that foliage stays wet into the evening, then that sets that plant up to have disease problems.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if you go back to biology, that disease triangle. So you have the host, you have the the environment and the pathogen. So we have hot, humid summers. If those leaves stay wet through the evening, it's guaranteed that you're going to have disease problems. No doubt. That's why you water. Do it first thing in the morning. Try not to, get that foliage wet if you can. It's better to water right at the root zone. If you have an irrigation system, drip irrigation, will work as well. But
hey, what about that drip irrigation? Do you just
clean?
What about that drip irrigation? You just keep it going, or again, you only water in the morning and then turn it off? What do you think?
Right. We actually had drip irrigation in one of our raised beds, and we just kept it going on in the morning for the most part, and that was first thing in the morning.
Okay. What about like when they are, how when you first, and I know most people, a lot of times, I know some people, especially if they're doing a raised garden, when they try to do a raised garden, I know some people that take their watermelon plants and they'll start them in the house. Okay, but what about if they don't start them in the house and they start them outside, in the ground, and what about when they first began, to grow, before they vines go to coming up and on and running, how they begin, the little plant itself. How often should you water that, and what's the best way to water it?
A lot of times when it started to grow and started to just come out of there, No, you want to keep it moist. You don't need a whole lot. Just like I said, you just keep it moist. You don't want to keep let it just be real wet. Just keep it moist there. And when you plant seeds outside, you make sure the soil is right for the seed to germinate. You can get too early because you need a soil temperature around 70 degrees or 75 degrees to germinate. You want to put it. We done had some cool nights still. They ain't cool night, and the soil still get back cool sometimes.
Right.
That soil is right for that seed to germinate in soil. But when it start coming to you, just keep it moist. Now wait until it start to catch on real good.
Right, because you don't want those roots to rot if you water too much. Because those are young roots, and they can get rotted easily if you keep them too wet.
Yeah, you see them stuff damping off. You see them get the ton of
right, exactly. It's damping off. Right.
Okay. So then like you want to keep, you don't want to keep them roots too wet and everything, and that's good. Like I said. So what about watermelons? Do all of them they pretty much year round the same time? What's about what take about 70 to 90 days or something like that?
Some in that area,
And what about cantaloupes? Would you care for them pretty much the same way that you do watermelon when it comes to the watering and everything?
About the same way, We do have a book on there, how long it takes for the watermelon to germinate. You got an idea before it be right. We get that call a lot of time. My watermelon right. Like you said, it takes about 70 to 80 days before that watermelon right. And it'll tell you that. So when you plant it, you need to keep a date when you planted it, when you start coming up, and how long it's going to take for that watermelon to be almost right.
Right. Because I tell all the time, I was telling myself, because the good thing about it, I know, and I just want y'all to correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, if I'm wrong, I always tell myself, because this thing about it, you don't want to pull it off too soon, because once you pull it off, the watermelon, I don't care how long it sit there, it ain't getting no sweeter for you. So if you have like a pineapple, it ain't gonna happen. So and I was telling them today, like, I said, because once you put it off, it don't have anything to keep it, nutritional and growing, or even putting the sweetness, whatever, in it, because it's disconnected from the vine. But I guess it kind of goes also in hand with the fact of even, I guess on the biblical side, with us, and we're connected to the vine, which is Christ.
No, look at you.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
So, I'm going to show you.
If you think about it, watermelon is 90% water, y'all.
Right, 90% water. Yeah. Right.
That's why mine didn't work well baking out on those rocks, right?
Right.
So I was going to show you guys just real quick. This is my little humble. Now remember, I'm saying humble garden.
Humble.
And I'll show you this was our first little gardens. And I don't know if can you guys see that?
Not right now.
Not yet.
Yeah, no,
there we go.
Yeah, okay, that look good. Yeah.
Square foot gardening.
Yeah, we did the little 1 foot square thing, and what you see on there is bird netting, and the bird netting is not for birds. The birds that was for squirrels. Because we got destroyed by squirrels, like destroyed by them. The concept that they have on these little beds, though, is that these little squares is, you eat up one square and then you replant something right away.
Right.
I mean, you eat it. So that was one of them. And you can see how small my little tomatoes are growing, but they're growing. And then the next bed, we planted just all kinds of weird little stuff. And then I've got to show you what ends up happening, though. See, that's the problem, is that they look good and cute, but I'll show you how it ends up growing here in just a second as soon as it gets through downloading this. But let me stop that share. So it's downloading real quick, and I'm gonna show you a picture of the after effect, and we'll do that after a little commercial break, and maybe you guys can give me some pointers on what to do to improve things a little bit.
Okay.
Man, I've still got a ton of questions for you guys, but I just want to take a moment for our charity spotlight real quick. So if you guys can hold on just 1 second, let me kick us over to our charity spotlight. All right. So our charity spotlight for today is Saving Lost Kids. Charles and I both work really closely with Saving Lost Kids. Their focus is missing, exploited, and sex trafficking of children, trying to put an end to all that. And they work alongside with another organization called USISB, which they go out looking for missing kids and do sex trafficking rescue and searching and rescue of missing children as well. So Saving Lost Kids, the website is savinglostkids.org. That's what I have up right now, savinglostkids.org. Their phone number, 800-308-0607. And Charles and I both work with them. We end up doing about 150 events a year at least.
Wow.
Plus, we have a tremendous amount of resources and information to help steer the children to a safer decision. That's what it all boils down to. Most people don't realize that missing kids, exploited kids, sex trafficking, there are things they can do to make things safer for them, to prevent certain situations from happening and things like that. Or what do they do when they get caught up in the situation? So we're all about preventative and trying to stop all that tragedy from happening to children. Check us out. Facebook, are also on Facebook on Saving Lost Kids. So if you're in the Facebook world, it's at Saving Lost Kids. But check us out on either the website or the Facebook. We need your help into making the biggest impact we can. So if you're interested in volunteering, we have plenty of volunteer opportunities and also donations. We're a nonprofit, so we work exclusively by donations. So come and be a partner with us, help us to make a huge difference. And so we are back. We are two pastors and a guest. Welcome everybody those that are just joining us. We have some amazing guys in the room with us. Of course, my co-host, Pastor Charles Matthews. You guys know and love him. But we also have Dr. Chris Cooper and Booker T. Leigh from the UT-TSU Extensions Office, the Master Gardening Program. So if you guys have questions, and we got a couple questions here, these are the guys to ask. So we are going to help you to get your gardening under control. And they've already given me a lot of great information. And one of the best things that they just told me was about your soil. I'll let you say it again, Dr. Chris. Would you say that for me? About the soil.
My guess, soil test.
There you go. And we can get our soil tested. Where is that?
You can come by our office, Shelby County Extension Office. We'd be happy to give you one.
Okay.
And what's the price of the box?
Probably $15 a box.
Okay.
You pay for the shipping charge, yeah.
Right, ship to right. I just want to
Yeah, $15 a box.
It just, it's nothing, everything is on you all. So we want to make sure that people understand that
Sure.
We're doing them a service, but, in the same token, that part they're responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, since our office is right now closed to the public, if you get a soil test, just give myself a Booker a call at 901-752-1207, and we'll tell you where to pick up that soil test kit. It's actually in a mailbox right outside of our office. If you have any questions on how to get to that mailbox, Booker and I'll be more than happy to give you the directions to pick up that soil test kit.
Okay, get that number again, because you faded out a little bit on one of them numbers.
Okay, 901-752-1207.
All right.
Give us a call. We'd be more than happy to help.
Be glad, yeah.
Good. Uh-oh. So you just put your number out there for people to call. See, now you're in trouble. So my wife's going to be calling you for sure. So let me tell you what happened one year, and you guys can tell me about the next adventure. So, of course, we had squirrels just destroy every single thing we had in our garden. So you kind of see where I had to throw up some bird netting, and they tried to go through that as well. Outside of shooting them with a 22, which I don't think they're going to let me do.
No.
What in the world? Because I'm from the country. I never fought squirrels out of my garden before. Deer, I will give you, but never squirrel. So what do we do to keep the stupid squirrels out of eating up all our stuff? Is there a trick?
I'm waiting.
So, just a couple of tricks I know of, right?
All right.
You're using the netting, okay? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
Okay.
Number two, I know a lot of people that use repellents. Anything that much contains calypsin, which is going to be like pepper.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That will work, but the only thing about using repellents is if it rains, then what? It becomes ineffective. So it has to be applied. So that's the second thing. And the third thing, I actually had an artist to tell me this, right? He actually went to, I think, one of the frame and fad stores. He bought some of those styrofoam white balls, okay?
Yeah.
He painted them to look like tomatoes and positioned them on his tomato plant.
Okay.
When the squirrels ate it, they didn't like it because it was made of mothballs.
No
But it
way.
actually worked.
Oh, I'm into this now. That just sounds fun.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty creative. He was an artist. Of course, it's not anything that we recommend in the extension office, but that is, one thing that this guy did tell me. But yeah, using the netting and using those repellents, understanding that if it does rain, you have to reapply those repellents. That will help somewhat, but
Okay.
understand that squirrels are hungry, so they will come in and investigate.
Yeah, because with you saying that, I even noticed that because some friend of mine's, doctor friend of mine, they do a garden every year out there, at Chevy Farms.
Right.
And I noticed that the deer, they come in there, they eat everything but the peppers.
There you go.
Another thing that this is not UT recommendation, but somebody told me that what they have in their garden around certain plant, they had put some gumballs out there. And those sweet
Gumballs, like, oh.
They don't like to walk on that. They should be a sticky, them gumballs. They go out there and see, put them around your plant.
Yeah.
Right, and they said they work pretty good. Now, I don't know that what they say, and I don't know how it work, but it could work.
It could work. Whatever works for them. Yeah.
It could work. Yeah, it could work.
So while we're talking about pests, and I'm not talking about Charles, I'm talking about, while we're talking about pests, so the third year that we were doing this, we got hit, we had beans, green beans, I guess, and we got hit by something called a three-horned leafhopper, something like that, right? Which is really big in Mississippi, I found out. And and what I mean by we were hit by them, we were trying to do the whole organic thing, right? So no chemicals, organic only. All right. So after we counted like 4 million of these things in the bed, we lost that battle completely as far as trying to do it organically, unless there's a trick y'all knew. So I finally had to go to a buddy of mine that was down in, he is a farmer a big time farmer, I guess, like big crops is what I mean. He did big crops down in Mississippi, and he's the one that identified it. And he goes, "No, I know what that is. We get those a lot with soybeans and stuff like that." And he says, yeah, you're going to have to do something on that, because he didn't know of an organic theory that would fix the problem. So what should you do other than just go, now we're going to jump into 7 dust and that kind of stuff again, right? Is there, I don't know how they do it organically. I tried. I just failed. What do you recommend?
We have a book on insect control for vegetable garden.
Yeah.
Like the number they have out, I don't like to give out a whole lot of chemical. I don't know who listen what the same place require different things. Yeah, but we do have a book on insect control for vegetable garden.
Yeah.
And they call our number, they can come out and get that book and everything. They can see what we recommend to control that insect on a vegetable on there. So it's a really good book. It's really good, and then kind of up to date, and they can see what it control those worms on the different types of plant. To use and how long before they can harvest that vegetable after they spray it on there. Yeah. Or you have like a waiting period on that too, that you need to wait on it before you harvest that vegetable. Like we tell you, any kind of chemicals, always read the label and find label direct. Right. That's one thing that we do. But we do have a book on insect control in vegetable garden.
So where do I get that book?
And we get it at our office, and they just give us a call with the number, give us a call. Okay. And in there, and we'd be glad to tell you where to get one that we put one out, then we close and you come out and pick it up.
Right. Wonderful. And one other question. Look, what about, how you, like with the raised garden beds, you put the soil in there, And you know, especially in a raised garden bed, as it rains and you know, a lot of times the water and stuff kind of go to dissolve in some of the soil, you know, a lot of times. And you know, and like certain, especially certain plants, you like you said, some of them they're shallow rooted, but then you got other ones that can kind of go a little deeper. You know, is it is it good to add soil to it? And if so, how do you determine the measurement of adding that soil? Because you know you got how you do. You know, depends on what you plan. You know, some people gonna do a row, you know, with a trench on the side of each row, and then some people, depending on what you plan, you know, they're gonna do a flat plant. So how do you kind of determine that? You know, because sometimes you know how you see it. I notice at times people be planting and I see the soil going like down, you know, from the plants, and you can begin to almost see not quite the root, but close to it. So how do you go about fixing that?
You know, in the raised beds that we have, you know, we actually lay it out to where the soil is actually pretty flat, right? Okay. We don't mound it up, so flatten it out. And then see, you're not going to plant that deep anyway. So if you start by seed, it depends on the side of the seed. So you might just need to tap it into the ground, just make sure it's lightly covered with soil.
Right.
Or if you have transplants, you're not going to plant it as deep as it is in a pot. So you're going to plant it shallow. So that's the way we do our raised beds again. So everything is pretty much flat. If we plant it by seed, depends on the side of the seed, we'll just press it so it has good seed to soil back. Or if we have transplants, we never plant those transplants too deep.
Okay, and pressing mean maybe about like about like a fingertip or something.
Like a fingertip. Yeah, depending on the size of the seed, just a fingertip. Because again, you just want to have good seed to soil contact.
Yep, and I know on the side on most of the packages that you get with the seeds and stuff, it'll kind of tell you.
It'll tell you
how many. Right, and then there. And then also on most of the side on the seeds, you know, stuff you plant, it also tell you, how many seeds to put in the hole.
Part of the panel, all that be on the seed.
Right. Yeah. How many centimeters apart? How many inches apart? Yeah, all of that'll be on the seed packet.
Yeah. But is that a good instruction, especially with the putting the seeds in the hole? Is that a good accurate instruction amount?
Sure.
Just say put 2 to 3 seeds in here. Is that pretty good accurate?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Because it'll tell you that again based on the size of the seed.
Right.
And then of course, you know, there's you probably won't get 100% germination, so that's why they do 2 or 3.
Right. Okay.
On the spot.
Right. And I have experienced that. You show right. I've experienced that because all of them don't normally generate.
Right.
Some rows I've planted times, and man, even in a few rows, man, nothing came up.
Right.
So how do you do that now? And I was asked that question because I said, now what happens? Like I said, let's just say you planted some cantaloupes.
Okay.
And, you got them apart like you're supposed to, and then you know how you got some and there. So you planted the 3 seeds in them. Now nothing came up in these 3 rows, but there's one row over here. All 3 that you planted, you came up in that row. Is it because I know they used to say, well, be careful, try not to disturb the roots, because then you cause a problem with them. But how do you, if you want to take, is it wise, I say, to try to take one of those away and plant it into another row?
You can do that while they're real small. You can kind of put them up.
Do that.
Okay. While they're real small. While they're real small at the beginning, you can take them apart.
Okay.
Right.
The roots are kind of tough. They're kind of tough now. They got hard to kill. You know where you're going to plant it at.
Okay, so it's more crucial then to do it while they're small. I mean, it's more better to do while they're small, because once they really get rooted, then that's when you really don't want to disturb.
That disturb got to pull them apart.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to show you this. I was wanting to show you this, guys. Did you see? Can you see the screen?
I can.
Okay, so
peppers.
This is just the peppers that came up, but I wanted to show you. So this is the one bed that we had. You can tell it overflows a lot. So we had what do we got? Cantaloupe. Cantaloupe over here, I think is what that is, right? And and trying to bring it down to get out, it wasn't such a hot experience. It didn't work super well, but you see what I mean by tomato trees. That's about
Yeah,
halfway
those are
through.
tall.
Then they get
Oh,
big
wow.
enough that we tie them up, and then they kind of come back down again. So that's about
Right.
halfway in. So
Wow.
what you're recommending then is to get my soil tested so that these don't come up to become like trees like this, right? And that
Yeah.
would help, you think?
Well, the thing with those tomatoes, they're probably indeterminate tomatoes, which means it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing until you get a frost.
Oh,
So that's what that is. They're
so now tell me
indeterminate
about
tomatoes.
that. Tell me about that. So determinate versus indeterminate. What is that?
Yeah, so the determinate tomatoes are more like bush tomatoes. They only grow to a certain height. If they're determinate, if you have indeterminate tomatoes, they'll keep on growing if you don't put them back until we get a frost.
Wow.
So there's your difference.
I
Determinate,
see.
more like a bush, right? They only get to a certain size. Indeterminates, they will keep growing,
Okay.
growing and growing until we get a frost, which is usually sometime in November.
Right.
Right? So you can essentially have tomatoes from May to November, you know, if you don't pinch those indeterminates back.
Wow.
So it does expand out the amount of time you get to harvest them then, right? So you can get tomatoes that just keep growing all the time. Is that the reason?
You can get them. I knew people the last couple of years they had tomatoes clean up until Thanksgiving,
Wow.
you know, on indeterminate varieties of tomatoes.
Yeah. And I guess it also determines, especially with the way our weather being, that kind of puts part in it too.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to kind of tell, man. Almost, man, you be like, nah, you know, man, I know it's supposed to be springtime pretty much, and like, man, it feel like fall out here,
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
So let me hit a couple of these questions we got here. Number one is, looks like, so she had plenty of she's got a raised bed and plenty of her stuff worked pretty good, except for onions. She had a big section of onions that just, apparently they just never grew. So is that a pH issue or something she needs to get her soil tested? And that's the reason why the onions didn't grow, but everything else appears like it worked. Is that a pH kind of thing?
Problem. It could be some of the problem. It could be the soil being stayed too moist too long down there. So, and they might have just rotted the soil. Could have just rotted. So,
right.
Make sure you got good drainage in the soil. They didn't rot in the soil before they're in there. And but pH could be a problem too. The soil could be a problem that's having that. You got a problem. It's something dealing with the soil, I bet. Why they do.
So
you
we can
right about that. Because the thing with that, Brian, is like I said, because I know, because especially most onions, they can't always notice, it can't be the soil, but they kind of almost grow some anywhere, Yeah. Yeah. So,
all right.
Man, this is some great useful information, man. That
I need y'all on speed dial there. So.
You have the number.
I hope people watching.
Give us a call anytime. You'll be glad to help.
All right. So when should you start planting and getting the soil tested and doing all that prep stuff? When should you start that? Is it too late of time this year? That's a question.
Best time to get your soil tested in the fall of the year, and you add lime to it. It'll be stuff into the soil by the time planting time comes. Probably take about 6 months to change the soil pH or something. So you test in the fall and put your lime down. By the time planting time start in May or something, it should be already in the soil.
Oh, did I hear you right? Mr. Leigh? So you want a pH? You want to check your soil at the end in the fall?
It'd be good to check it in because if it already, that'd be a good time to do that because if you already got the thing planted, it takes about 6 months to change the soil pH or something like that. But you see a difference in the soil pH.
Wow.
So you want to make sure you got it. If you have a problem that you got a tomato plant, you start getting blossom end right on your tomato plant. There could be a calcium deficiency in your soil. You're not going to be able to change it right then and get it back right. But if you add some soil, you add the lime in the fall, you've been able to work this stuff into the soil by that time planting for next year, you might not have that problem.
Right. So in our tomatoes, I keep bringing up tomatoes because my wife's favorite crop. One year we just had all the blooms on them just fall off. They just kept falling off all the time. Is that?
Yeah, that has to do with the heat, though. It has to do with nighttime temperatures. So
Oh,
it's too hot in the evening time, that plant will abort its blooms because it's trying to survive. So it'll just drop its blooms, and then it'll regulate itself once the temperature gets cooler. Then it will start producing more blooms and more fruit. So that's a typical question we normally get. So yeah, our hot summers, if it's hot at night, that plant will throw off or abort its blooms because it's trying to survive.
Wow.
Would
So
that
the
be
best
oh, go ahead, Charles.
so the best place then, you know, I guess to have your tomatoes if possible, it's in a place to where it ain't, you know, too cold but cool enough and not so overwhelmingly hot.
I mean, tomatoes still need about 6 to 8 hours.
They need the sunlight, yeah.
Yeah, it needs the 6 to 8 hours.
Okay.
Can you cheat?
Provide it with a little shade, you know, later in the evening in summertime, that may help. But again, it's the nighttime temperatures cause the tomato plants to abort their blooms because they're trying to survive.
Can you cheat and water it at night to keep them cooler?
You might put it.
I don't know how well it's going to work, though.
Yeah.
I don't know how well it's going to work.
Yeah,
because we're talking air temperature, so I don't know how, you know,
right.
well that's going to work.
Yeah, that's just like talking about them squirrels and trying to keep them out your garden. Squirrels fly, man.
Squirrels are a mess. I had no idea. I've got the best. If anybody is into squirrel gravy, I got the best fed squirrels on the planet, right here. Let's see. Oh, let me hit one more question here for you before we go on. So we talked a little bit about fertilizing. Throughout the year. So that you just planted and stuff's going up. Are you supposed to keep putting more fertilizer down all the time? I think is what they're asking. Yeah. So are you supposed to just keep fertilizing throughout the plant season? Because I never do. I never put down more fertilizing stuff. You supposed to?
Sometimes people do side dressing, might put down the side of the road, but you have to depend on what plant you have, and what fertilizer you put down. You know, some people they don't put it right around the plant. They might do a kind of like side dressing the vegetable.
I kind of thought it'd burn it if you put down fertilizer.
No, I like to put mine down when I'm going to water it in. I know it's going to rain or something. You don't do fertilizer like that, but you want to side dress it.
What would you recommend? What kind of fertilizer do y'all recommend?
Well, depending what veg you have. No, you got something like tomato. You don't want to put a whole lot of nitrogen fertilizer around the tomato plant. You don't want to do a whole lot. You need some, but not a whole lot. Or something like 6-12-12 or something in that area. Something that got low in nitrogen, got to do for phosphorus potassium. You're doing something like green, you might want to have some kind of like high in a little nitrogen fertilizer because you want for the leaf part of the vegetable. Depending what you're going for, what kind of vegetable you're putting around. You can't recommend fertilizer for it to be good, but green like a lot of nitrogen fertilizer, you're going for the leaf part of the vegetable.
Because the ones that have a lot of greens, like any of the salad kind of things, those like that nitrogen.
Right. Yeah, they're leafy vegetables, right? Right.
Well, I hate the fact that we're out of time. This has been great. So if we need to get in touch with you in the middle of the night or something, as we're trying to do our late night gardening, but no, but seriously, if we're gonna need some advice in the future and things like that, can you help us to? How do we get in contact with you? How do we get in touch with the UT-TSU Extension Office, that kind of thing? Can you tell us a little bit more one time?
Okay, yeah. Again, if you need any gardening advice, any gardening tips, any gardening resources, you can give me, there's Booker T. Leigh, Joanne Waterman. You can give us all a call at 901-752-1207. We'd be more than happy to help. Again, that number is 901-752-1207. And Booker might even answer your questions at midnight. How about that?
And also, Dr. Chris Cooper, he have a TV show also. Plot that it come on Saturday morning. Saturday, he might give about the family plot. This gardening show.
Now tell me about the show. When's it on?
So it's called, appreciate that, Booker. It's called Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South. And every Saturday at 3 p.m. on WKNO, which is the PBS station. Okay. You can check that out. And then Booker T. Leigh has a show as well. So Booker, tell them about your show.
All right. My show is on the library station on channel 18. There were YPL. There were YPL, channel 18. On Comcast, you have Comcast to get it. I know it come on 15 times a week, but I know it come on Saturday morning at 8:30. And the name of my show is What's Growing On. What's Growing On.
I love
it. And also I have I do a news article for the Germantown paper, being the area sad every Thursday. For the Germantown paper, I have a little news article in the Germantown paper. They can read that. I'll send all type of gardening information on that. So we got you covered.
Wow.
Got you covered. And one other thing, Brian, real quick for the look. Yeah. You know, most folks, Dr. Cooper and Leigh, look, they don't really know. They really don't know what the lime is for. You know, when you talk about the lime, kind of give them a real quick thing about what the lime helps and what it's.
The lime gonna sweeten that soil up for you.
Okay. See, all right.
Make those other nutrients available, you know, for the plant, so it can take up the nutrients that it needs for growth.
Right.
So yeah, basically, it just sweeten the soil up for you.
Okay.
Nutrients can be provided to the plant, optimum plant growth.
Okay.
I need to get some of that. I guess it's too late this year to put any in, though, huh?
Oh, lime can go down any time of the year. Like Booker said, it's best if you can put it down in the fall as you go into the winter, because it gets broken down during that time. Because at that time, the garden is in a period of rest. So it will get weathered, you know, throughout the fall and winter and be ready for the spring.
Yeah. What about, you know, I know when I was young, I would see my dad. What about, you remember stuff they call, what does that do? And is that why, you know, I would see Dad put down what they call, you know, and he would say it would help with, I guess, the bugs and some pests and stuff, sulfur. What about sulfur?
Well, a lot of people put stuff around. Sometimes they think he help keeps insects, snakes from around your vegetable garden.
Yeah.
You know, there's a snake around there. So I know that's not UT recommendation now. I don't know, but
right.
My mother do it all the time. Put stuff up. My mother put stuff around. Yeah. She put it around the house all the time. Though. Yeah. Put some around the house.
Right.
But they say keep a snake from getting around the house. So.
Right.
Man, I wish I could just keep talking to you guys. I mean, you guys are so full of knowledge and wisdom. I want to thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Two pastors and a guest. We're just honored to have two wonderful guests, Dr. Chris Cooper and Booker T. Leigh, both from the UT-TSU Extension Office Master Gardening Program. They gave out their phone numbers and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys need more questions, just you know who to call. So, and Brother Brian, Charles, I thank you, buddy.
Brian, tomorrow also, we'll have Pastor Dirk tomorrow night.
Oh, yes, Pastor Dirk. Amazing guy. You guys got to be, you guys are going to be excited about the show tomorrow night. And I want to thank you all for joining us, and check us out here again tomorrow at 7 p.m. and we will see you there. Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Thank y'all much.
Yeah.